Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I see a thing here, a mistake. I said grade 11, so clearly you have already passed for the year. So today we are continuing with our lessons. What I thought we should do is to start with paper 3. I'm aware that we did the short stories. It was also just a matter of giving you the tools of how you go about responding to short stories in preparation for your test and exams. I have good news and bad news at the same time, but I'll confirm everything when it's being confirmed. So when you hear another teacher or someone else, don't wonder or ask what is going on. Whoever that will be part of this program will take from where we at the moment. So it's just to say welcome. You know our thing. We do our usual check-ins on teaching and learning, on what are you finding to be very helpful, especially with what we have done this week, the poem and the short story we did yesterday. I'm aware that I had given you tasks, but continue sending those things and we'll use some of that content and material for revision. So today we are doing essays and transactional text. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand different the aspects of writing and writing, writing and presenting, to produce competent, versatile writers who would use their skills to develop and present appropriate written, visual, and media text for a variety of purposes. So that's basically that, for you to understand the process and aspects of the writing and presenting, and to equip you with skills that will make you competent and versatile writers who would use these skills to do a number of writings. So presenting and writing. So writing and presenting allows you to construct and communicate thoughts and ideas coherently. Frequent writing practice across a variety of contexts, tasks, and subject fields enables you to communicate functionally and creatively. I'll explain what this means. Knowledge of language structures and conventions will enable you to produce coherent and cohesive texts. What this means is that there is a huge role that language informs our writing and our ability to write and engage with text. So ideally, when you write, there is a sense of coherence and cohesive understanding. So language structures should be taught for constructing text in their context of use. Remember, text is stuff that's written. So language, the application of language is not restricted to the analysis of isolated sentences. It explains the way in which sentences are structured to construct whole text such as stories, essays, letters, and reports which learners learn to read and write in school. So what this means is that language is important because, as I said, it helps us to engage with text so that we can be able to write our stories, our essays, our letters, and anything else that needs to be written. So you need to master the art of language and the use that it has in the way we write and understand writing. So we know now that with writing and presenting, there is a sense of thoughtfulness that you need to be able to communicate your thoughts and ideas coherently. Um, there is a sense that knowledge of language, it helps us to be able to produce this coherent and cohesive text, and that the application of language is not restricted. At the same time, it explains the way in which sentences are structured to construct our ability to write different text. So another thing that is important is integration. Integration is the ability to pull everything together, to make sense and not just make paragraphs or sentences. But those sentences should be well integrated so that you are able to make sense and those coherent arguments. So the above skills that I've highlighted, writing and presenting, should be integrated. In integration the skills, the focus on one skill can lead to practice in another. For example, a learner involved in a debate will read an argumentative or discursive essay, and then produce his or her own written argumentative or discursive essay using language structures. So what this means is that, for instance, if you could be given a topic for a debate challenge, you would need the skills of writing, presenting, and bringing integration that will enable you to be able to put your arguments right, to put your arguments coherently, and then eventually being able to provide your arguments orally. So presenting and writing again, presenting and writing combines three elements. Keep these things in mind as they will improve your writing ability. Using the writing process, learning and applying knowledge of the structures and features of different text types, learning and applying knowledge of paragraphs and sentence structure and punctuation. So what this means, the elements of writing and presenting, these are the key important things. Using your writing processes, the skills that you are learning now. Learning to apply your knowledge of how texts are written, learning and applying knowledge of how to use paragraphs, sentence structures and punctuation, where to put commas, where to put full stops, colons, and everything that has to do with that. A writing instruction usually involves, so now we are moving into the writing process, the actual process, the ongoing process of writing. So a writing instruction usually involves producing a text through the writing process. However, not every step of the process will be fully required on every occasion. I'll explain these things. For example, if learners are writing a familiar text type, you will not need to analyze structure and language features in so much detail. Moving on, in the writing process, the writing and designing text is a process. The process may unfold as stated. So this writing and designing of the content in the write-up is a process. It's not just a one thing event thing. So the process may unfold as stated below. You decide on the purpose and audience of a text to be written and or designed. So it is important that when you write, similar to when I had said in last week, when you read and when you communicate certain things, there should be the purpose and the audience, right? So you need to understand, who am I writing for? Who is my reader? You brainstorm ideas using, for an example, mind maps or flow charts or lists. You don't just put all your arguments without, you need to have a sense and an idea of what am I going to talk about. There is an exercise that I usually encourage learners to do. something that is called free writing. Free writing, where you put your thoughts and ideas about what you want to write about. The free writing would then help you to pull some of the themes of what you've written about, to pull the most important salient things, so that you can be able to start the write-up process. Organize your ideas, read, draft critically, and edit. At this stage, the following must be kept in mind. Avoid fancy characters and capital letters in the middle of sentences. I think this is the basics of writing that traces as far as primary school. SMS language is not allowed. As we all know, the way we write, when we send text, Instagram DMs, Facebook, and Twitter, and all of that, we need to be mindful of those things when we do academic writing. That will enable us to produce a well-designed final version. I must emphasize on the idea of reading your drafts critically, meaning reading your drafts over and over when you've written and editing your work. This is very important because it improves the quality of your writing. It improves your grammar, it improves your flow, it improves your arguments. So this is something that is ongoing that you should learn to do as you start writing and learning on how to master this process called writing. So now we're going to move to the different types of text or different types of writing. There is this what I call the Bible of reading and writing, the study guide for writing essays and transactional texts. As you see here, this is the content page of this. I call it the Bible of reading and writing, but mostly for writing. You see this writing and presenting that we have done. Essays, the different types of essays: 1, narrative essay; 2, descriptive essay; 3, reflective essay, argumentative essay, discursive and expository essay. What we call longer transactional text, that is informal letters, formal letters, letter to the editor, letter of application, and all that you see. Shorter transactional text, that is your advertisements, your flyers, that one we've done, your invitations, your diaries, postcards, and all of that which you see. So this is very important because those are different types of essays and transactional text that you need to be spot on for you to be able to do that. So now we're going to move into essay writing. You have done different essays at your different levels and different grades, but I want you now to take your level of essay writing to a more sophisticated way of writing. So by definition, an essay is an extended piece of writing in which a writer expresses his or her point of view on the given topic. It should have an introduction, body, and conclusion, a brief explanation of each of the following. So what this means is that an essay is a single piece of writing, right, where you express your thoughts, your ideas, your arguments about a particular topic. So if you are, for instance, given a topic around what we've given you, the impact of coronavirus or the impact of the extended lockdown, the key thing there is the impact of the extended lockdown. So what the reader or the one who's reading, they want to have a sense and understanding of what is this about, right? and they want to have an understanding of your arguments and everything that has to do with that, which is you put it in your body and later your conclusions. So this is the recipe for an essay. Keep the recipe in mind. It will help you now, grade 11, grade 12, especially at university, because this is where we begin to really engage with writing. So the introduction should catch the reader's attention. It must be striking and entice the reader to continue the reading. So this is where you take your reader to the why question, what question, and the how, and where you identify the gaps of what is missing and where would you like to continue with the conversation. Then we've got the body, which comprises the full content of the essay, as I've said. That is the meat that you then build on from the introduction. So the body must be divided into paragraphs, each of which must have a main idea with supporting idea details. So the body is not just the body, it's made of paragraphs, and not just paragraphs that have no flow, but paragraphs that gives a sense of moving from point number one, taking you to point number two, taking you to point number three, for you to have a solid and a meaningful conversation as you're writing, convincing the reader that you really know what you're talking about, that you really know, you've got a better understanding of the topic, and that's what the reader wants to do, that they want you to do. Another thing that is important is conclusions. The conclusion rounds off the essay. This should have effectively tied up all that was presented by you as the writer. So this is not just bringing everything without critical or without applying your mind into it. And you don't introduce new concepts here. You just build from what you've been given, you've been writing about, from the introduction to the body and to the actual conclusions process. So keep this recipe in mind that you use to do your actual write-up. Just have a look at it. So now let's move forward, moving into different types of essays. The brainstorming process. This is very important because in your introduction, as I've said, is that it's the most important part. It should not exceed five short sentences. You must avoid stating these things in this essay or write about, or I'm going to write about. Just get straight to the point. But the grounding of everything, the foundation, before you can write any type of essay, is your topic, because it guides you. Remember, everything else that we've covered around the importance of the topic in short stories, in poetry, in newspapers, in different texts and textbooks, that is very, very important. So the topic, you underline the keywords to ensure that you do not go off the point. Ask the questions who, what, when, where, and how, right? And ask the questions with the understanding of wanting to go deeper into your topic. Plan the essay by using the mind map, which becomes your guide of your writing points and what you want to achieve by the end of your write-up. The conclusion, should be a thought-provoking and leave the reader with a lasting impression of your work. Your summary, your conclusion, which is different from a summary, it's that thought-provoking thing that eventually I must remember that out of everything, this is a take-home message. So there are three main ideas which falls under what we have covered. The body of the essay, each paragraph should have a main idea with supporting detail that develop the main idea. Remember this, in writing, there is nothing that is exclusive that you would say that has never been said before. Meaning that every idea that you have, there is someone who has written about it. It could be in a different way. But what you want to do, it is to contribute in the conversation in a different way. So your paragraphs should be supported by evidence, and evidence meaning that different text, it could be a newspaper, it could be a journal article, it could be a textbook, according to who and so says this, I agree with the idea of what's being communicated and all of that. And that is the basic fundamental thing that you need to consider in your writing. Main idea number 2, paragraphs should be varied in length. There should be a logical sequence of ideas and events. So these paragraphs need a flow. This paragraph needs to make sense to the reader. The last thing is, the main idea which connects to whatever that we have said is that avoid sentences that are too long, because you get to lose the message. Rather have short sentences that are straight and concise and that are well articulated. So keep these things in mind as part of your brainstorming process. You would notice here for English 4, it's that the text can range from 150 to 200 words, but again, it differs on what you are requested to do. So now we will explain different types of essays, which is today we'll do 2. A narrative essay tells a story or tells of a past tense, a past event. It does not have to be a true story or based on your life experience. It can be written from any perspective. Here are possible topics. For instance, it could be about the last time I saw them, hashtag men are trash, and hashtag whatever that you want to write about. So you consider the following when writing a narrative essay. The story must have a strong storyline that is convincing, even if it's a fiction. So you may write a fiction. It may not be necessarily a true story. It could be something that you are personifying or trying to make sense of. And so other people who are used to reading, they would tell you of different types of text and what they usually communicate. So your story when you're writing a narrative essay must be very convincing. A narrative essay is usually written in the past tense. Keep that in mind, because you are telling a story. And the word narrative in its sense, it's about telling of the story. It's about telling of something. So the telling of something is in writing, and in writing, your storyline must be very convincing. The introductory paragraph should capture the reader's attention. So it must be a punchline that invites excitement to the reader. An unusually interesting ending gives a storyline the final touch. The reader's interest must be maintained until the end. So there must be a thread, right? That it feels like you're knitting from one point to the other because you're telling a story. You want the reader to have an understanding. So the style, rhetorical devices, and action must ensure sustained interest right throughout the story. A successful narrative It vividly highlights sensory details such as sight, sound, taste, and smell. You become very enticed in the process. You become so indulged that the writer takes you through moments where you can feel where these senses appear. You can feel where these these sense are very active. So this is an example of a narrative story. Just go through it. It was a cold, stormy night. The thunder was screaming in a gruesome voice. The rain was pouring like a waterfall onto the windowsill. As usual, I was alone, scared. This could be diaries of the lockdown for those ones who are alone when this kind of setting happens. So you can you can get a sense of you must give the reader a sense of this coldness, this sense of cold stormy night. You must give the reader the understanding and the imagery of what usually happens when there's thunder, the screaming of the gruesome voice that comes with that. Give the reader the sense of the pouring rain in their imagination and a waterfall, and usually the feelings that come with that. So we can see in this paragraph of how these variations are playing out. A descriptive essay is another form of an essay. Here, as a learner, you describe probably a person, memory, situation, place, experience, or an object, in contrast to other types of essays. So even the word descriptive, it tells you description and the embeddedness that comes with it, the specifics, right? So the descriptive essay allows the writer to use many figures of speech and descriptors like adjectives and adverbs, thus enabling you to create a powerful image of what is being described. The writer presents the text in a manner that leads the reader into writer's perspective of the subject the writer is writing about or describing. So here are possible topics, for instance, that are descriptive beauty. It could be experiences of Black women's beautification processes, how beauty is presented in the media space, right? An explosion of colors, an example, the seasons that bring out the best in me. So those things are very important. Then you consider the following aspects when writing a descriptive essay. The writer should create a picture in words using adjectives and adverbs so that you can get a sense of this description, right? And metaphors and that. It is usually written in the present or past tense, so words and expressions are chosen carefully to achieve the desired effect, right? Oh, I see there are questions here. All right, okay, I'll answer some of this thing. So, figures of speech are used in original ways. Learners should ideally have the experience of the topic. It is very difficult to describe something without having first-hand knowledge. So here's an example, read it. A vast expanse of scorched sand, small bushes, trees covered by dust, a dome of rich blue, governed by the fierce ball of fire, the dipping slowly downwards to meet the sand of the horizon. Lifeless, you would think. Think again, the Karoo has a life of its own. So keep these things in mind. You can see the use of metaphors. You can see the use of images. You can see these adjectives in that, in the same thing. One last essay for the day. It's a reflective essay, right? In a reflective essay, you as a writer, you contemplate an idea and give your emotional reaction and feelings to that which you are asked to do. It's reflect. The word reflect, it means you go into the mode of thinking, the mode of making sense, the mode of making meaning. So as a writer could, for example, reflect on dreams and aspirations. It presents a set of thoughts and ideas about a topic with no particular attempt to argue for or against anything. It's about the reflections. So here's an example, the process of how you go about writing the essay. An alternative piece of writing that is descriptive and reflective, that is description, describing the facts that made up the event or the experience. You set the scene basically on a reflective side of things in terms of the description. And the reflection, you evaluate the experience. So this is what is important in terms of possible topics. Today I'm wiser than before. So one who is talking about this kind of topic will be reflecting back as to the experiences that have shaped them to be where they're at, that have shaped them to be who they are. The challenges of life today, what we're experiencing today in this day and age, the impact of the lockdown, the psychological impact, economic impact, and all of those things that are important. So when writing a reflective essay, these are the things that are important. A reflective essay is subjective. Subjective means it is your personal opinion, it is within your personal view. I call it the prism or the lens of which you look at your life as an individual. That's what subjectivity means. Feelings and objectives feelings and emotions play a major role because this is about you. This is about emotions. This is about the feelings. A substantial part of the essay may be descriptive. These descriptions should be vivid and aim to create the recollections of feelings the writer in the reader. The ideas, thoughts, and of feelings expressed should reveal sincerity and personal involvement. So this is an example of the introductory chapter, introductory paragraph. Everyone has that one moment which changes one's life, a moment one wishes had never happened, a moment that one cannot avoid or escape, the moment of truth. So this is an example, an illustration of this, right? A descriptive versus reflective. So okay. So past experience, the topic could be my first day at school. The topic could be my first day of lockdown. So the description is the physical environment where he was, the school, the classroom, and all of that. So these are the kind of descriptions that you can give. Reflective, evolve emotions and feelings, how you felt at the time you were at school, what you discovered, the perceptions, the conceptions. So these are the key important things that are important when you're engaging in reflective essays. So for today, we'll end our topic there. So we have covered a narrative essay, which is about more like a story thing, more like a narrative that you take the reader through that. We've done this kind of reflective essay. We've done a descriptive essay. So these are the things that are important, but keep in mind that when writing essays, these are the essentials, your ingredients that you should never ever miss: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. The different types of essays that we write about, the descriptive, the narrative, and everything else that we have covered today. I hope that this makes sense and it's quite simple and straightforward for you. Until I see you next time, tomorrow we'll continue doing other essays, and I want you to keep on writing your essays, because we'll use them as examples of applying the knowledge of what we have read to this point. Enjoy the rest of the day until we meet up next time. Cheers.